Greetings and welcome to The Black Room. This is the podcast for all things erotic mind control, and I am Callidus, joined as always by Madam Keystalot. Welcome back, MK. How are you?
I'm doing pretty great. How are you doing, Callus?
I am doing just peachy. Very happy to be back with you and all of you listening. We thank you so much, everybody who tuned in last time, checked out our very, very fun interview with Can't Find a Decent Alias. We're going to be continuing that theme a little bit in this episode. We're going to be going about a slightly different way. We'll get to that in a second. First and foremost, we want to tell everybody where to find us. So if you're listening to this show, you want to find out about the things that we're going to be talking about, which are pretty spicy and fun, incidentally. But if you want to find the show notes where we've got descriptions and links so that you can get to all of the fun stuff we're going to be discussing, you can find that at the show's official homepage, which is podcast.callidus-mc.com. podcast.callidus-mc.com. Go there for all of your show links needs. And then, of course, if you just want to find us individually and see what we're up to, you can find Madam Keystalot at her official homepage on the web, madamkeystalot.net, and then, of course, over on Tumblr, madamkeystalot.tumblr.com. Did I get that right?
Yep, that you did.
Keystulot, K-I-S-T-U-L-O-T.
My constant regret that I didn't make a name that's easier to spell.
Yeah, well, there's ups and downs to that. I mean, you don't have any trouble getting your username when you go to a new site, so there's at least that. And if you want to connect with me on social media, you can find me at callidus-mc.tumblr.com or at Callidus on Twitter, because I got it before those other guys. Ha ha! Coming up this episode, we are going to hear from Daphne, the famed mind control author and also the media maven, who is, along with her partner Henry, behind some of the amazing mind control films and comics coming out of Mind Control Theater and Mind Control Comics. So be sure and stick around for that. We're going to hear from her a little bit later this episode in a new segment that we like to call 10 Questions for Daphne, in this case. Speaking of interviews, you definitely want to check out next episode 19 of the Black Room Podcast. We have got a whopper of an interview with Lex of entrancement.co.uk. Really had a fun, lengthy conversation with him. It's over 2 hours. I think that's probably the only thing that's going to be featured in that episode, because goodness knows it's enough, but it's going to be a lot of fun. So make sure and stick around for episode 19 of the Black Room Podcast. We'll let you know exactly when that's coming up. Today, we're going to be talking about, we've got some great stories, some great fiction, some of it on the archive, some of it on Tumblr. We've got a new 3D webcomic from Dollmistress, which is really terrific. And then we're going to talk about the most interesting Pornhub clip that has ever existed and why it might be of interest to you, the loyal and passionate fans of the erotic mind control community. But first up, let's talk a little bit about some updates on the archive. For that, I kick to you, Madam Keystalot.
Why, thank you, and I'll take that. Those of you who pay attention to the archive might have noticed that Sammynona has been posting more regularly as of late. Sammynona having written such stories as the Snake Goddess, Falling for Her Tits, Enslavable Cheerleaders, that name that always makes me think of that one arcade game every single time.
As well it
I
should.
Can't help it. Exactly. I mean, it's definitely not unintentional. Sammynona's been back in more regularly updating and talking with Valisanya, who's been in contact with Sammynona on Tumblr. I talk there sometimes. I'm so busy lately it hasn't happened nearly enough. Apparently, partially the reason that dropped off is just due to it's really easy to forget to email sign up. It's a pretty easy process to do. I wrote a little thing you can find over on my website about how to, the submission process, but you can forget sometimes. And I will completely be honest, there is one email that I have proof of that I sent on a Saturday morning when he was updating on Saturdays. So we've all done it. But so apparently that's been the reason for that being a bit delayed. But thankfully, with that sort of situation taken care of, because Valisania's been taking responsibility for going, hey, the update's coming, you see on your email,
Just so you know.
means that we've gotten, yeah, it's a useful thing. I mean, I know that if, let's just say Canary might have missed an update or two without that. So it's a useful thing to have someone around to give you a poke. And this week there's even a new story that I haven't gotten around to yet because I've been just way too busy. But Victoria's Mansion, which has me more than a little bit excited to get to take a look at. And having gotten to look at It Runs in the Family from being on Sammynona's Patreon for a bit, it only keeps getting good. So don't drop off of that one. But another good thing to keep in mind is that You Part 3, which I've been looking forward to, and I know the Callidus you've been looking forward to
Yes,
too,
enormously.
had some email troubles, unfortunately. It was ready for this week and then got sent off on Tuesday, and then we find out on Saturday when we're talking to Simon trying to figure out what happened, it never actually sent. So you can find it on Tumblr right now.
Eaten by the demons of email, no doubt.
Yeah, no, that's the worst thing ever when you don't send an email, which we were able to troubleshoot and figure it out. So that
That's
hopefully won't be happening in the future because Valentine's got all kinds of more ideas in their brain for like more things expanding this and other things. We've been sort of commiserating about that. So that should be, unless who knows what, and if stars are falling, should be out this week. But if you don't have any patience, and I know I didn't, Belisania's Tumblr, which we'll throw over in the show notes, has You Part 3 already up. So
awesome.
I would recommend just like, if you need to pause this to go off and read that and then come back, it's fine. We won't know. So we can't take offense.
We certainly won't judge. But we will know. Don't listen to what MK is telling you. We know.
I mean, can't tell them that.
But because we're in league with Facebook.
Oh, right. Sorry.
Actually, we probably even in jest, we probably don't want to say that.
No,
it's like saying bomb in an airport. It's one of those things you just don't joke about.
No, Zuckerberg. I don't need nearly as many pillows on my chair. I'm sorry, I couldn't resist.
I was gonna say it's a low blow, but it would have been an unintentional pun. And
goodness.
After your mishap, during the last recording, we don't want to. Anyway, so the point is that YEW from Valisania is excellent. First two parts, excellent. Part 3, I can't wait to find out, and I know you can't wait to find out either, which is why I have agreed to provide a brief spoiler. Here now are the first 3 words of YEW Chapter 3.
Oh no.
The firmament gleamed. There you have
Gleaming's
it.
Good.
Yeah, gleaming is good. Great word. Great way to start. So, YEW Part 3, an epic sci-fi hive infiltration on Mars story. We've talked about it, I think, maybe back in episode 16. I can't remember. A few episodes back, we talked about YEW. It's a really fun yarn, and I've got the tab open now, and as soon as we finish recording this, I'm going to go finish it. On Valisania's Tumblr this week, hopefully on the archive next week. All right. The next thing we're going to talk about here in the discussion section is a excellent, fun comic from Dollmistress. If you are not familiar with Dollmistress's work, she does 3D. I don't know if she does poser work or DAZ. I'm not sure what medium she works in exactly, but she does 3D poser style mind control comics. A lot of doll women, drone women, and a lot of tongue-in-cheek humor. She's a really great writer and always manages to introduce a lot of fun elements in addition to the hot mind control and body transformation and some of the other things she's interested in. If you've never checked out her DeviantArt page, you owe it to yourself to head over there and see some of the amazing work of Dollmistress. The amazing work in particular that we are mentioning this week is a fun new series that she started, I guess, back in mid-April?
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Called the Oblivion Glove, which, as you may have already surmised, is sort of a tongue-in-cheek, wink-wink, nudge-nudge tip of the hat to the Infinity Gauntlet, which of course is making Marvel Studios and Disney so much money right now. The Oblivion Glove comic is an ongoing thing. She's been adding new panels to it on a pretty regular basis, a couple times a week it seems like. But she's up to, I don't know, I think like 49. I think there's like 49 panels in it, right around 50. And so far, it's been a lot of fun. There's a lot of humor, as mentioned, but there's also, we're starting to get in now to what may be some spicy territory. So if you haven't had a chance to check that out, we've got the link in the show notes to go check out the Dollmistress comic, The Oblivion Glove, on her DeviantArt page. And of course, we would also love you to go and check out Dollmistress on Patreon, because she does, in addition to the comic stuff, she also actually does video games as well. And you can find Dollmistress on Patreon. Again, the links are in the show notes for that. Okay. We recommend at this time that you sit down for what we are about to share with you, because it is going to be a little bit off the beaten path. How to set this up?
I'd say so. We're talking. We're getting ready to record this.
Yes.
And Callidus says to me, "I have to find this. I have to find the full thing of this eventually, but I have to show you this clip." And I don't know what to expect. I'm thinking it's going to be something, something spicy, something fun. And I just get linked this amazing special effects masterpiece that's just. I kind of don't want to like steal the thunder of getting to describe basically what's going on from you, but just it left us with this is amazing, this is wonderful, how have I never heard about this before? How do I see more of it?
Yep.
And just what do we got going on in this clip here? Because this is just, I don't want to steal that. It's too cool.
Those were my emotions as well as the first time I saw this. Okay, so now that we've thoroughly buried the lead here, we are talking about a 38-second clip that someone has uploaded to someone has uploaded to Pornhub from a 2016 film called The Untamed. That's the English language title. This is a Mexican drama directed by Amat Escalante, and the clip in question features a live action and thoroughly amazing special effects job of a woman having sex in a barn with a tentacle monster. All right, let's just hold for a second, let that sink in, okay? This film won the Golden Lion at the Venice International Film Festival. Other than the fact that there's a tentacle monster in a barn, it sounds like any kind of any sort of interpersonal drama, independent film plot that you've ever heard of. I'm going to read a little bit from Wikipedia here. The film tells the story of a young mother of two, Alejandra, who is unhappy in her marriage to her husband, Angel. Her brother, Fabian, is having a passionate affair with her husband and is a nurse at the local hospital. At his job, he meets Veronica, a young woman who is infatuated with a strange tentacle-like monster that an older couple keep in a barn. Eventually, Veronica convinces Fabian to visit the barn. All right, I'm skipping ahead a little bit now. Eventually, Alejandra finds her way to the barn as well. There, the old couple tells her of a meteorite that landed and how the tentacle-like monster came to be. She is drugged by the couple and escorted into the barn. She continues to go back to the barn and has continuous sexual encounters with the tentacled monster. The 38-second clip on Pornhub is one of the sexual encounters between, I think, Alejandra, maybe it's Veronica, I'm honestly not sure, but one of the two women in the film, it is the aforementioned sexual encounter with the tentacle monster. Now, we bring this up for two reasons. Number one, because it's awesome.
Yes. This is just a special effects masterpiece here. Just
imagine someone with sort of, I think, like Guillermo del Toro's sort of penchant for really, really convincing visual effects, whether it's practical or computer generated. Imagine somebody with sort of Guillermo del Toro's eye for detail and visual effects and also just sort of monster stuff in general, like cool monster design. Imagine that, but tentacle porn. That's what you've got in this clip. It's astonishing, if brief. I've got to see the rest of the film now, and I'm dying to hear somebody ask the question, at what point were you writing this sort of love triangle drama between, this character Alejandra and the fact that her husband is having an affair with her brother? At what point were you writing this? Did you decide, do you know what this story needs? A tentacle monster in a barn.
I think the bigger question is, why aren't more people making independent art films where they go, okay, so we've got this young down on their luck character dealing with this problem, or this older character having a midlife crisis, etc. Where do I put in the tentacle monster? I mean, you've got the Chuck Tingle angle of just throwing in a tentacle monster doing terrible things to you in just every title, like, I don't know, trying to think of like the tentacle monster at Wall Street, how I got taken in every orifice at once by my tentacle monster boss. We need more of this.
Yes.
And frankly, we were debating at first whether we were going to talk about this, because it's not explicitly mind control, but frankly,
you can kind of squint, and you can see some mind control there if you just sort of look at it from the right angle or something. I don't know.
And it basically looks like it could have been a scene out of a Thrall story in a good way, to be clear.
Yes, exactly. That's exactly what it looks like. If you want to see what Thrall's imagination looks like, it's this.
Because there's no context in the clip. There's just purely, hey, here's this woman being wonderfully, Violet's not the right word if she's going there willingly, but it looks just absolutely wonderful, and you should check it out.
Wonderfully penetrated.
Yes.
So yeah, it's something to behold. I agree with you. I think that every independent film from moving forward, they need to ask themselves the question, do I have enough tentacle monster in my independent film?
How do I show my dedication to the underrepresented tentacle monster demographic?
Yes, which, let's face it, is very underrepresented, particularly when executed at this quality. And that's the thing, like, we cannot emphasize enough how good this scene is from a visual effects standpoint. We know, if you're listening to this segment, we know that you've seen the live action The Blue Girl clips floating around somewhere. This ain't that. This is executed with a level of technical acumen that I've never seen outside of big budget movies. It's really pretty interesting, and I'm very curious to see the film and to just sort of see how the story and the drama unfolds and how compelling it is. Or, is this just a cynical attempt to get people talking about a movie that otherwise would be lost in a sea of similar human drama independent film? I don't want to be cynical about it because I love it too much, but whatever the case may be.
Just the loving camera work alone, because you can tell a lot about how much someone cares about a film based on the camera work. If you got a lot of shot, reverse shot, shot, reverse shot, it's kind of, even in a film you're enjoying, you can kind of sometimes feel like, well, they're asleep at the job. The planning for this was done, and they were just, I already see how it's going to be. We just have to make it, and then we can go home. And I mean, there are some good films with that, some films that I've even enjoyed, but just the cinematography in this scene alone makes me want to see more of it, because a human drama piece where someone's caring that much about lighting, about camera angle, about just, that's got to be worth seeing. And I haven't seen nearly enough independent film from Mexico, so I'm definitely curious.
All right, there you have it. The Untamed. It's a 2016 Mexican drama film. We've got a link to the Pornhub clip, and I assume that the movie is findable in other places. I've got to go see if I can track down a copy for myself. Check it out. Okay. Speaking of something completely different, we invite you now to join us in a new segment debuting this episode on the Black Room podcast that we call 10 Questions for Daphne, in this case. We invited Daphne to join us for an interview on the show, and she was very kind enough to agree to the interview. Not interested in putting her voice out there, not ready to cross that line, but we were able to email her a series of questions, and she was very, very kind to respond at length with some really interesting and insightful answers. So we're going to dive into this now and give you 10 questions for Daphne. Now, if you don't know, let me just set this up a little bit. Daphne is sort of a legendary author. She's one of the sort of the pillar authors in the mind control community. She's been doing this a long time, is really, really talented, has written some fantastic stuff. And if you've never checked her out, definitely head over to mcstories.com and look at her author page. She's got some really fun stuff. We actually was it last week that we mentioned her? You know, she's kind of come back from a hiatus with that new story, Indiscretion. That was so fun. Of course, Daphne is also one of the people who is behind the excellent mind control video site, mindcontroltheater.com. That's theater, T-R-E. mindcontroltheater.com, and also its sister site, mindcontrolcomics.com. She's always created amazing content for the erotic mind control community to enjoy, and so now we're going to dive in and find out a little bit more about her and the work she's created with 10 Questions for Daphne. I'm going to kick things off. We're just going to read these to each other and then discuss. So here's question 1. How did Mind Control Theater come about? Was there a eureka moment when you realized this needed to happen, or was it something that built slowly over time? And what was her answer?
And Daphne responds with, like most fans, my origin story is I wanted to see the things I wanted to masturbate to, which I have to agree with.
Ditto.
Going back to Daphne's response.
Yes.
I had written some stories and put them out, but I was frustrated with the lack of good quality filmed porn that focused on the EMC fetish. My friend Henry had made some porn films, and we decided, why not? Our first movie was shot in a hotel in Oakland, and, well, it looks like it. But we were fortunate enough to have some performers, such as the now retired Daphne Rosen, who were willing to take a chance on us. And, I can't think of anyone who's involved in the MC fetish community who didn't at least at some point go, why is there not enough of blank? Because that sort of...
Absolutely.
Like there's two things that inspire me to write. There's either the, oh my god, this is so good I have to write, or the, why is there no blank?
Right.
And
yeah. Same with me.
So that, yeah. And so I can definitely respect that being a motivation to get both, the writing in the first place and then getting the theater going. And when you've got a friend that can help you make connections to get the next step going, that just seems completely logical. Yeah. Pretty cool.
That's what I got to do. I've got to go make friends with somebody who's already, dabbling in porn, and they're just like, I'm just looking for a unique angle. And I rush into the door, holding a rolled up script in my hand, saying, "Have I got an angle for you?" And I don't know why it turned into a Robert F. Kennedy impression there at the end. But the point is, one of the things that I found so fun about this answer. I think, as everybody knows, I am a frustrated mind control porn filmmaker myself. I famously attempted to get a mind control film off the ground. As a matter of fact, I consulted Daphne for advice before attempting to launch that, and it didn't happen. There was sort of just this. There was an unfortunate event that happened 48 hours before we were due to start filming. This unfortunate event with one of the lead actresses, and there just wasn't enough time to recover. And frankly, it just broke my heart so much that I never made it back to it. But anyway, I'm not trying to talk about myself. The point that I'm trying to make is that when I was considering doing this, when I was trying to get into this, all of the script ideas that I had, I wrote 3 or 4 different ideas. They were all set in hotel rooms because I figured that was the one location I was guaranteed to be able to get. And I thought that was a very fun little anecdote from her. I think.
Oh yeah.
We're all kind of starting with so what do we know we have access to? Aha. And
Hotel rooms,
obviously,
apartments.
yeah, it's I mean, it makes perfect sense. The thing that I think that is really great though is you can see, I think, how ambitious Daphne and Henry are in their production values and the locations that they've had over the years in some of their movies. I'm especially thinking about I think it's The Brothel Part 2.
Yeah.
You know, they've done some great and varied location work over the years, whether those are actual locations or sets that they have found to use in their movies. You can see how far they've come in over the years since that first shoot.
Yeah, and like whether you're recording in a hotel room or on a set or anywhere really, it's all about getting the most out of what you've got. And I've never
Yeah, very
seen,
true.
I've seen a fair few of these. In fact, actually, sort of as a bit of an amusing anecdote, unless I'm horribly misremembering things, I actually had a friend nab me a DVD of Madame Pavlova for a birthday present when I hit 18 because I didn't have a credit card yet. So that was a
Nice.
fun thing that happened.
Very nice.
Um, and I've seen a few things since, and I've never gotten the feeling of, oh, this is wait, why are you just putting that over the? Oh, there's none of that tragic, that's a hotel room, that's someone's bedroom, or that's they're using the what they have really well, and that's really important because it doesn't matter what the camera's not pointing at. It's just how you make the camera point at something that's convincing. They do a great job with that.
Yeah, they really do. And the thing, and you know, I'm not trying to. I don't want to talk smack about, you know,
Oh no,
other people who are doing this kind of thing, but there are times, particularly in the movies that are the superheroine spoof style movies that feature a
yeah,
lot of mind control and cat fighting and that sort of thing.
yeah,
And bear in mind, I'm saying this from a place of love because I love that stuff. I get such a kick out of it. But oftentimes, the things that have you kind of smirking to yourself are the fact that these these superheroines with these amazing powers and, you know, laser eye beams and that kind of thing, they always seem to be duking it out in either hotel rooms or living rooms. And I think that one of the things that Daphne and Henry did really well is they played to what they had on hand. It's one of those basic tenets of indie filmmaking. You know, what do you have access to? Well, you have access to a restaurant. Okay, well then make a really interesting story, make it some kind of drama, some sort of comedy set in a restaurant. Just go with what you have, and they really played to that strength well throughout the run of the films that they've put out.
I would agree. So to shake things up and to make you answer for Daphne,
Yeah.
our second question was: have you been surprised or not surprised to discover that some of the performers you've worked with are turned on themselves by erotic hypnosis / mind control?
Ah, yes. And Daphne answers, I feel that I am breaking the fantasy here, but for most of them, it's fun, but not a core part of their sexuality. Aw. A few have said that they think the idea is hot. I'm not going to name names lest they be bombarded on Twitter. We've never had a performer flat out not want to participate in our movies because of the fetish, though, which is cool. That's
Yeah.
I think that, I mean, that generally is sort of what I expected. Although I do remember reading, and I can't remember if this was maybe from Daphne's blog or maybe it was another source, but I seem to remember her saying at one time that the aforementioned and now retired Daphne Rosen, that she thought mind control was kind of hot, and I don't know if it predates her appearance on Mind Control Theater or not. As a matter of fact, I think it probably wouldn't because I think the
Yeah.
first time they had her, it was before her boob job.
Yeah.
But there's a clip I've seen floating around somewhere of Daphne Rosen appearing on, you know, like one of those sites, not unlike Lex's site, but, you know, one of the sites where they do, or either they do or they purport to do an actual hypnosis session, you know, with a porn star. And the only thing I can remember from the clip is I think it's in a hotel room, and it's Daphne Rosen nude and sort of frolicking on this bed while, being dropped into trance and certain suggestions made and then brought up and dropped again and that sort of thing. But I do seem to remember reading that Daphne Rosen was kind of turned on by the idea of mind control. But
that would make sense with the enthusiasm that she's brought to her roles.
That's true. I tell you, one of the ones with Daphne Rosen that I really like is, I think it was called "The Truth About Self-Hypnosis Part 2", I want to say. And it was this interesting idea. Like, what's kind of going on in the video is that Daphne Rosen, a little dressed down, just kind of hanging out like in like a tank top or a t-shirt or something. She's in just sort of, I don't know, kind of just a space, sort of a nondescript sort of set. But she's in this chair and she's kind of like watching, I guess she's like watching a TV or something. And then on the TV is Daphne Rosen, but this time, like all made up and dolled up and looking very hot and sexy. And the Daphne on the TV in the red dress is speaking to the Daphne watching the TV and begins to hypnotize her and then condition her, and things get hotter and hotter and hotter. And she was really good. I mean, she definitely had sort of the right, either the right sort of instincts or just sort of the right ideas as far as performance goes, and playing both the submissive side and the dominant side all in one video. That was pretty cool.
Definitely.
All right, so next question. Are there any performers that you see in the adult business that you would really like to work with but haven't been able to so far?
And Daphne responded with more than we can count. We don't make that many movies a year, so we had to pick and choose. And we also like going back to people we like, which makes perfect sense, because once you've got a professional relationship going with someone, and this is my response to that, you don't really, it's not so much you don't want to make new ones, because you're always wanting to expand and network and get more people working with, but you already have a like sort of a flow with the people you've worked with before. You just kind of fall back into it again. So that would inherently limit the pool of people you're working with, but at the same time, you're working a lot faster, a lot more productively, and just naturally happens.
That's true. I think that there's a good balance to be struck there, and I really like that kind of stuff. Like, I like when you have directors who have sort of a quote unquote stable of actors. I think one of the more famous examples would be somebody like the Coen brothers, who will often come back to actors that they've worked with over the years and put them in really different roles. That you'll see really different sides of that performer in these different characters, these different movies. And I kind of dig the idea that Daphne and Henry are doing that, in the kinds of films that they're making, that we see a lot of these actresses coming back and playing different parts. Well, like I was just talking about Daphne Rosen, like, she's been in their films as a hypnotist and as a hypnotic subject, and it's fun to see them bring back those performers who they have this established relationship with. And I'm sure the fans are saying, hey, bring back Kendra James, bring back Daphne Rosen, bring back these actresses that we've seen that have worked out so well. So yeah, that's quite a bit of fun.
No, definitely. And our next question was
question 4 for those of you keeping count.
Yeah. Do you find that adult actors / actresses enjoy the acting portion of their job, dialogue scenes, crafting their performances, building their characters?
All right, and here's how Daphne responds. One of the things that really aggravates me is when people use porn performer, air quotes, as shorthand for bad actor, also air quotes. They, adult actors / actresses, are untrained, usually, but they are among the most professional people that I've ever met. They show up on time, hit their marks, and learn their lines. Some of them, Brooklyn Chase pops to mind, are excellent actors and scary good at learning lines. We routinely have performers tell us that they like doing our movies because they get a chance to actually be an actor. I got to tell you, I love this answer, and I love finding that out, because I've always had a pretty high opinion of porn stars and their acting, although it's one of those things that, that everybody kind of snickers at. I've always thought that porn stars were probably much, much better actors than most people give them credit for, given the fact that probably like 80 to 90% of the time you see acting going on in a porn film, they're given sort of an outline, they're given an idea, a setup for the scene, and then they're improvising it. So considering how much of their job is one of the most difficult things a performer can be asked to do, which is to just make it up on the fly along with another person or, a couple people in the scene, considering the fact that they do that day in and day out, I think that deserves a considerable amount of respect. And the thing is, there are some people in the porn industry that have gotten an opportunity to, to work on these scripted films where they do get to kind of be a character and actually build a real performance out of it. And some of those are terrifically good.
Yeah. And not only that, but one thing that I think is undervalued a lot is that a lot of people think, oh, being a porn star, or just being a porn performer, that has to be so fun. You're just constantly fucking.
Yeah.
But like, think of it this way. If it's one thing to just have sex, and that can be, that can be fun, or it can be, I mean, we've all had bad sex, but theoretically you're imagining, yeah, it's just be great. But it's one thing when you're just doing it to have fun, you're just doing whatever. It's another when you have to record. That means all of the things of a professional performance are there, and every single performer who can seem enthusiastic, who can seem like they have a connection with the other person they're performing with, etc.
Yeah.
That's a lot more on screen than is typically like appreciated, because I mean, they might know each other from before, they might not. A lot of the time you have characters who are very enthusiastic about each other, and it's sort of, I feel like there's not enough weight placed on the fact that I don't think I'd be able to seem that enthusiastic doing that on camera, or like just I don't know if I seem that enthusiastic, period. But just, there's a lot of work in not just creating the illusion of a relationship, or creating such an illusion that it's just, oh, of course these two people want to fuck. When, I mean, I'm not saying that they hate it, because I've talked with sex workers myself, and I have never gotten the I hate doing this. But there's a real difference between I'm enjoying doing this and it's a job and I'm doing my best, but I have other concerns than just getting off. Like, it's more complicated than a lot of people give it credit for.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely true. I think that one of the things about sort of porn acting and all that. I mean, and obviously, okay, there are some people who are better at it than others. I think there are some people who get into porn because they look amazing, or because they really can perform sex scenes in a very exciting, very evocative fashion. But I know that there are actresses in it. The one that's coming to mind right now is Raylene. She was in the industry when she was younger. She left for a while. She came back. I don't know if she's still in right now or not. She's one of the performers that's profiled in that. There's a documentary. It might still be on Netflix, called After Porn Ends, and they talk to a number of male and female performers who have been in the industry and just kind of talk about their experiences and what it's like now on the other side of retirement. Anyway, Raylene is in that, and I believe it's in that documentary she talks about how much she enjoyed working on films where there was a script and there were lines to learn and a character to portray. She's one of those performers that really did enjoy the acting part of it, and I think that it really shows, because she's a pretty decent actor, when she's given the chance to do that kind of work. So I think that another one's Milena Morgan. She did that. I think I've talked about it on the show. I'm a big fan of Zalman King of Red Shoe Diaries fame, and before he died, he did sort of a softcore porn for sexart.com called Kamikaze Love, and it starred Milena Morgan, and she was amazing. I mean, it was just like Red Shoe Diaries. It was a very erotic, sensuous drama, and she was the main character, so she's doing most of the heavy lifting. She was fantastic. So I think that not only the industry as a whole, but also individuals within the industry, I think the porn industry is really getting to the point where that whole sort of adage of, oh yeah, porn, porn with the story, roll your eyes. I don't know that holds. I don't know that holds true anymore. I think it's kind of a funny and popular trope, but the fact is that there's some pretty good writing, directing, and acting in the porn industry.
Yeah, we just need to keep working to support people that are making the stuff we want to see instead of just making it so that the big names with less ambition, shall we say,
Yes.
get access to all the good talent, because I frankly can't blame someone for going where the money is.
Which is to say brazzers.
Yeah, and I mean, like, I don't want to like bash on anyone because I don't know enough of their work. Just frankly, it just doesn't interest me enough to know it.
Yeah, well, it's mainstream. They're aiming for the middle and that really wide swath of the middle, and you and I are off to we're off to one side in a very narrow niche where the temperature's way hotter. Yeah. Okay, so yeah, not trying to tear anybody down, really not. No. But we could use some of that talent over here on this side of the street.
Definitely.
Question 5 of 10. Which is more difficult, filming mind control scenes or sex scenes?
And Daphne gives us another great answer with, that's an interesting question. The dialogue scenes take more time because there's almost no improv in our movies, and we're particular about performances and getting the lines right. Sex scenes are, of course, more improvised. Starting and stopping a sex scene to learn new lines and change camera angles will be very hard on the performers. The hardest part is getting the mind control right in the sex scene, because combining those two things is challenging. And that makes perfect sense.
It does. I've often wondered sort of like how, because I mean both in things like Daphne's films as well as other movies. There's a Justine Jolie film that is, I can't think of the title of it right now, but it's got her and Nina Hartley and Ariel X and several other performers. But anyway, it's a pretty fun movie. Yeah. And I often think of that. There's a couple of sex scenes in that where there's actual, like, they're having sex, and then in the midst of that, there's sort of like some dialogue or something that's going on that is kind of advancing the plot. And I often wonder, so like, do you say, okay, that sex scene's going really good, we need those lines of dialogue right about now, like how does that work? And how do you, and of course, again, I mean, that just sort of owes to the professional, the performers, I suppose, that they deal with it somehow. But yeah, I have to say that answer that kind of conforms with, I guess, what my expectations were, that trying to do the sex scene and sort of advance the plot, that is the heavy lifting. That's why they get paid.
And I've seen some scenes that have circulated around various places that still have sort of the direction in them, and it's always, I'd never thought of it before, because sort of like how, like, if you're playing a video game or if you're reading a book, you don't tend to think very much about, like, oh, what was the code like for this exact segment, or what was the paragraphs, the syntax they were worrying about here. But hearing the, okay, now do this, okay, now a little bit more of this, actually, like, being audible still on the video clip in a very, felt like I wasn't supposed to be listening to it sort of way. Just, obviously, that I imagine if that happens more often, it gets edited out in post. Having that combined with pulling off a convincing and erotic sex scene, and then also adding in, oh, by the way, I'm mind controlling you, and that's why we're having sex, that does sound difficult, to say the least. And I definitely appreciate that. Yeah, I really appreciate that focus on, like, if you've written the story, and you have to for a thing like this. I mean, you can make, I don't think it's it's fair to make them denigratingly, but you can make jokes about other porn with, like, oh yeah, you just have to throw two people in a room and tell them to fuck. But, which, is, again, not true.
Yeah.
But you definitely
unless one of those people is Sasha Grey, it's a little bit more complicated than that.
And then, yeah, that just makes that just happens on its own. But not shit, seriously. But you can't really do that with anything that has any kind of a story without, unless one of the performers is also like a director or also a writer, and then they might have a little bit of room. But even then, you're gonna lead to like yes and someone doing something that messes with your whole arc. So that's inherently I can see how complicated that would be.
It didn't occur to me to ask this, although it might have been an interesting follow-up to ask about, because of the fact that a lot of these performers have to improvise, in these scenes. I wonder if it's kind of a difficult habit for them to break, if they start sort of, shouting certain things and you're like, well, you're mind controlled right now, so you probably wouldn't say that, I wonder if that's kind of difficult from them on the performer side to really try to stay within the scene, within the character, even during the sex scene, to not sort of let it move too far one direction or another, where it kind of gets outside of the confines of the story at that time or whatever.
Yeah, and that's definitely got to be a very interesting challenge on both the side of the director, who appreciates the enthusiasm but also wants to get it done right, and the performer who's just trying to get their all.
Yeah, very true. That's actually, it's one of those things that always kind of bugs me in mainstream porn titles. I really am bothered when whether it's a story or it's just, sort of a premise, as a lot of porn is just, there's sort of some kind of brief setup that lets you know who these characters are, what sort of relationship they may have with each other. She's a stay-at-home housewife, she's a UPS delivery driver, and then, whatever it is.
Magic happens.
And then magic happens. But one thing that really bugs me is, and the specific example that I'm thinking of right now, is when there's a little bit of like a power exchange, a little bit of a dominance and submission thing going on in the setup for the scene. And then once the fucking begins, like that just goes out the window.
Yeah.
And like that really gets under my skin. Like if they don't sort of maintain, like, so if you set up this woman as the dominant character and she isn't being dominant during the sex scene, if that sort of character, if that character trait is not being reinforced during the sex scene, if it just sort of becomes then like a vanilla sex scene, that really bugs me. I don't like that at all.
No, and it's basically, it sort of kills all of the work that's been done to sort of draw you in. It's just, I could just watch that scene, paused, and watched something else.
Exactly, and that's it's one of those things that I don't know. I think years of reading terrific fiction on the archive has sort of spoiled me for that kind of stuff. Okay.
Yeah.
Question 6.
Ooh.
What sorts of challenges have you faced as a producer of a niche fetish porn site in the current online climate? This is in regard to credit card processors, piracy, and marketing and promotion.
And Daphne gives us another interesting answer with, credit card processing is an ongoing challenge. It's a nightmare. Adult in general has limited options, and adding any kind of fetish makes it even harder. Piracy is a big problem in the adult industry. We have a full-time employee whose job it is to send out takedown notices, and we're a very small producer. Sadly, porn fan culture has evolved in a way that makes piracy seem like it's okay, and that's an existential threat to producers like us. It's hard to find new ways to promote our work. We know that there are people with the fetish out there that we haven't reached yet, but standard adult movie advertising isn't the right way to find them.
I can imagine that. I think that's both the benefit and the challenge, I would guess, of being a fetish porn producer in a pretty specific niche like erotic mind control, is that you have an audience that has a built-in interest in what you're creating, but there is also that challenge of, how do you connect to them? Where's the one place that they're all going to be, that that you can kind of get your product out there in front of them. I mean, other than this show, obviously.
Obviously, and with a fetish like erotic mind control, especially with the majority of the fetish, and not entirely all, but there's a lot of, especially when you're getting fictionally, going towards the more non-consensual edge, even if it's very much fictional, even if it's very much got all of the warnings you can have before and after. Unfortunately, there's a lot of people who seem to find depictions of any level of non-consent questionable, whereas there's no problem with Amazon selling infinite amounts of, in heavy air quotes, dubcon content, which always makes me super confused. Why is it okay to make it seem like you can scream no for an hour and then yes and it's great, but you can't just say, okay, this is really bad. She's going to say no the whole time. It's bad. It's fantasy. That seems way less morally great.
Yeah, I would have to agree with you. And unfortunately, I think that's just sort of symptomatic of not to suddenly put on our social science hats here, but I think that speaks to some of these serious bipolar disorder that the United States of America collectively has with sex workers, and pornography.
Unfortunately.
We have a complicated relationship with these things, and I think it's kind of symptomatic of that. It's sort of like just the standards that different people have on the subject, what they're afraid to do for fear of backlash or fear of scrutiny or criticism or whatever. It's all quite nonsensical to me on some level. One other thing that she mentions here that is, I think, a little bit wider problem is the piracy thing. This is something that I've heard other people talk about. Christina Carter, who is another producer of a niche fetish porn site, which actually features quite a bit of mind control in some of her videos. I've seen her talk about the problem of piracy, and she's talked about how dire a situation it is, that it really, really is a problem, and that if there isn't a solution found, if the culture around it doesn't change, if people don't stop pretending like piracy isn't an issue and engaging in it, then the sites like hers, and I'm sure Daphne's as well, are in danger of going away, and the only thing being left are sites like Brazzers, those sites who have managed to secure a massive sort of mainstream following, but there may not be as much room for the smaller niche sites, which is pretty sobering. And I have to say, it's one of those things that I really I got to be conscious of, because I'm certainly guilty of grabbing things in the past. My one and only nasty note from my cable provider regarding copyrighted content that was I got off BitTorrent. I don't have it framed, but I've actually got it up on my corkboard at home. I've got a letter from my cable company saying, on such and such a date, someone at your IP address downloaded, and then it's got the title of the film, "Please, Mommy, Make Me a Lesbian, Part 17," or whatever.
A very excellent piece of cinema. At least they know that your tastes are good.
That's exactly right. Whatever it was, but I was quite proud of that. Mrs. Callidus and I had quite a laugh over that.
At least you were both able to laugh over that, and that's definitely a thing. I mean, it's a complicated situation too, because a lot of that culture evolved from a lot of like early sort of internet culture in the first place. A lot of it very, very insular, a lot of people just sharing things that were hard or impossible to find. Things like basically the rebirth of the 80s OVA scene online, wherein things that you couldn't find anymore being circulated. Sort of MST3K keeps circulating the tapes, but for porn.
Yeah.
But and I mean, I'm not going to say I've never ever done anything before, but I can also say that I have in the past, when I had a lot less funds, nabbed something before, and then had the money and gone around and nabbed it back up.
Right.
Because sometimes it's just a matter of a lack of funds, and then you fix it and you do it. I'm not excusing the practice, because I mean, I agree, we need to be supporting people. As someone who's trying to make their own work profitable and etc., I can't just say, I mean, there's no harm done ever, but there is something to be said for not every single person out there is just looking to rip you off. But that doesn't really help when you're trying to make money.
Well, it's true. It's a deeper discussion, but I think that I don't know as far as the porn industry goes, but certainly back in when the music industry was having such a difficult time, sort of adjusting to the 21st century, sort of the post-Napster music industry, if you will.
Yeah.
I can remember the arguments being bandied about, and people saying that, look, if you're downloading this album on Napster, you're stealing. And the simple fact of the matter is that not every person who downloaded your album on Napster, you didn't necessarily lose money from them. Not every person who downloaded that was going to pay you for it. People will be more than happy to check out something that's free, but way, way more discerning when it comes to what they're actually going to drop money on. And while it's certainly true that the music industry took a big, big hit, I think they've actually managed to recover a little bit in the last few years, but only because I think that the business model, maybe it hasn't necessarily changed, but I think it's gotten a lot more diverse. And there are new sort of income streams that are opening up to bands. They're finding different ways to connect with their audience, and I wonder if the porn industry is going to have to do something similar, if they're not going to have to just innovate basically to try and stem this problem. Although I think that it's a cultural problem as well. It's not as though the impetus is solely on the porn industry to fix this.
Oh no.
I think that making people aware of the fact that that you are taking something that somebody else is putting out there and charging money for, and you really should be paying them for it. If you're interested in it, you should pay for it, because that's the only way that person's going to be able to afford to give you more of it.
And we've all got to eat. And speaking of things that help you eat,
where's this going?
It's not just mind control theater that Daphne's got going. So for question 7, we asked, what are the origins of mind control comics? How has that site overlapped with mind control theater? And has working on those two sites changed your perspective on erotic mind control fiction?
An excellent question and an excellent answer. Daphne says, mind control comics came about because I love dirty comics. Ditto.
Yeah.
And I wanted to do more and create more than I could with mind control theater. It was also fun to work with the artists and to be able to put out new work more frequently. We sometimes do loose crossovers between the two, although we're not really a, quote, shared universe or anything like that. Although, now I'm wondering, shared universes are all that's all the rage now. Now that Marvel's sort of shown people how it can be done, everybody's trying to get in on that shared universe action. Not exactly succeeding, but still.
They also showed us how you can run event comics into the ground over 10 years ago, and no one's picked up on that yet. But more appropriately, though,
the MCU learns from those mistakes.
We hope. But we've got we've got the MCAU, we've got the DCAU, although it's still cinematic universe, so that's different. But how do you fit in like MCTCU? There's room for it. The more people want continuity, like you said, people want this fun of throwing things together. So I could definitely see not wanting to put everything in one thing. Oh God, looking back at my backlog and seeing how much of it's in one shared universe sometimes exhausts me.
Oh, that's that's crazy. How do you possibly keep it all straight?
I forget things, and then someone will be like, "Oh yeah, but in this story," and I'm like. I used to think I only had one big continuity flub of, oh yeah, she ate her waffles 3 times because I wrote, and then she finished them. But no, one character's name changed 3 times. So that was great.
Yeah,
and that's just with just one person creating. You got Daphne, Henry, who knows how many actors.
Right.
That would be daunting. And then you got the artists for the comics. But that is interesting.
It is. It's obviously it's a lot to juggle, but I do I do love the frankness of her answer because I love dirty comics. I'm like, who doesn't?
Oh no, seriously, it's been something that I've wanted to do for a long time to get
Me
sort of
too.
involved in that sort of thing because it's with with video, and this is no insult. I mean, how do I go to the far end here? Anatomy only works so many ways.
True.
Visuals only can work so many ways with people.
True.
Whereas, like, one of the things that people will like laugh at and make fun of, like different like aspects of like the anime style, for example. But those huge eyes can be very expressive of what's going on with someone's mental state.
Very
And you
true.
get the same thing with other aspects of comics. Like I know that, for example, the Beyond Ruby series that's on NCC that I've seen little bits and pieces of here and there. I haven't been subscribed myself, unfortunately. You see a lot of very dramatic breast expansion, a lot of very dramatic facial expressions that, while not necessarily completely unrealistic, like there's nothing that looks like, for example, Untamed, the 2016 Mexican film.
Yes.
It'd be hard to get the same thing, the same level of unreality reality from an actor, and that's definitely something that makes those dirty comics so hot.
Yeah, it's definitely true, and also budgetary constraints kind of go out the window because the next cheapest medium above just pencil and paper is pencil and canvas. Maybe is not
Yes.
a great analogy, but you know what I'm saying. You know,
Mm.
other than just the written word on the page, being able to create artwork, you can dream up anything, and it can be as expansive and as rich and detailed as you have time for, basically. So it's great in that sense, and I mean, there's tons of great mind control comics that we've talked about on this show, and both traditional and poser based. I love that stuff. So
Yeah.
it's it's cool to hear her talk about being a fan first and foremost.
Yeah.
Question 8: what has it been like working with the various creative collaborators for the comics and video sites?
And Daphne answers, it's the most fun part of the job. I love working with other talented people to make movies and comics. Although I'm not a visual artist myself, I've learned an enormous amount over the years that I've been doing MCC and MCT. And that, as someone who's not very visual, because like Callidus, you are incredibly good at being visual. I've
Thank you.
been recently working with a cover artist for a project I've been working on, and
Mm-hmm.
every single time I work with an artist on anything at all, I always start off by going, "So this is what I've got, but you're the one that does this. Your brain not just can see things visually, because I'm like my imagination's very visual. Some people like just imagine words or like feelings, but I'm seeing sort of, I like to imagine my stories as like a film that I'm just sort of capturing in words.
Yeah.
So it's all moving around. But my ideas aren't actually translating to the page. So you kind of like tell me what I'm doing wrong here. And I've never once had a visual artist not go, well, your idea's good, but let's ignore this entire part and make it this and it'll be way better. And that's
Right.
happened every time. I got like two versions of this cover art, like threw it at everyone. I was like, so not knowing who said which one would you go with? They all go with the artist, because why would you not? The artists know what they're doing. That's why you ask them to make art.
Yeah. Well, it's true. I mean, I think we're talking about the great things that can happen where you collaborate with someone who is strong where you're weak.
Yeah.
When you have multiple artists working on something and you can complement each other's skill sets, that's uh that's always fantastic. And it's great to it's great to see that answer, because I like that's kind of the answer that I would want to hear. That's certainly how I feel in collaborations that I've done with certain people over the years. Certainly, the ones with Tabaco come to mind.
Oh yeah.
Um, though that's fantastic. When you find another person that you really gel with creatively, where because the two of you sort of make each other better, and you kind of push each other to do even greater work. That's fantastic. And I have to imagine that being in the position that she and Henry, that puts Daphne in a great position to work with not just one or two, but you know a lot of different artists, and to use that unique quality of collaboration to put out really great stuff.
There's just no doubt about that. And I we could ramble with that one forever, but I think we've hit the main point, so we get on to 9.
Yeah.
We're getting near the end here. With what role has sound design and visual effects played in your films, and how has that evolved since you began?
All right, and Daphne answers, sound design is very important to me. The dialogue has to be very clear because that's a large part of what sells the fetish. I also like building themes and moods with the underlying ambient noise. And of course, we sometimes work mind control content into the background using mixed in vocals. We've not done as much with visual effects as we'd like to. Some of that is that we're on a very tight production schedule and effects take time. We've done some breast expansion visual effects in past movies, and we're hoping to do more of those. As a matter of fact, I think I mentioned that that one movie, there's Brothel 2. That's one of the films that features the aforementioned breast expansion
Mm,
effects. But I think it's very telling how much emphasis she places on sound design,
yes.
because certainly, as I know from my experiences in the past, and as you'll hear a lot of people in the film and television industry will tell you, sound design and quality sound, in a lot of ways, is almost more important than the visuals. It seems as though people will forgive poor visuals much more readily than they'll forgive poor audio. For whatever reason, it seems like offensive audio is a bigger hurdle for people than poor visuals. And I've seen the anecdote repeated ad infinitum that you can take a cheap looking, let's say an indie movie or a student film or something like that. You can take a cheap looking video, but if you put like a triple A soundtrack underneath it, it suddenly has the effect of being a high budget kind of affair. So for whatever reason, it seems like we human beings watching this stuff, we really do respond to sound design in a big way. So
Yeah.
I think, again, I think that just shows you how savvy Daphne and Henry are, that they're putting that much emphasis on it. That speaks very highly of them, I think.
Oh, definitely. And a lot of people will rag on like the traditional porn soundtrack, but there's something to be said for as someone who grew up with a little bit of that. Exactly, or all sorts. I've heard everything from sort of well, I was sort of a piano-y, violin-y sort of thing to
Mm,
outright just vocals to like anything, but it can really be used to good effect. Even the most cliche porn music can get the right effect if you use it appropriately. But like sound to me is always like visuals, with the exception of like too bright or too garish or otherwise like visually painful. As someone with really sensitive ears, sound that's bad in the direction of like bad quality just hurts. Like I can't focus on it. I just
right.
have to cut the whole thing out. But sound that's even vaguely good, sound has this sort of way of being ignored by you consciously when you're focusing on the visual, but it's sort of like the emotion of whatever you're watching. It's the way that when you're watching a film, you very rarely have text up on the screen go, this is a moment where you're supposed to feel tense.
Yeah.
But that music slowly ramping up as the
Yeah.
character moves forward, or that slow creeping, or that excitement, or that just sudden orchestra hit or sting, or that is so important. I definitely have to agree. Like I wouldn't have thought of it if someone asked me, the visuals or the sound more important. I might have said sound for the sake of you have to hear a moan right, but I wouldn't have thought of that. And that shows it's a thing. It's a thing for me at least.
Yep.
But that definitely shows that's professionalism right there.
Yeah.
And go ahead.
Yeah. I think that I think that certainly in the movies that I've bought from Mind Control Theater, I can attest to the fact that they do make great use of
Mm,
the soundscape, and I especially like the fact that they use sort of, I guess, what to me seem almost more like horror and suspense kind of cues and sound
yes.
design to create tension, and that I think that tension helps to just helps to enhance the drama, and it's impactful. It absolutely works. Again, I think you can tell that that Daphne and Henry really know what they're doing.
Very, very definitely. And as far as breast enhancement visual effects, I
Yes.
always remember there was this one film with oh, what's the name of the actor? He was the Andrew Divoff, which most people might remember from Wishmaster, old film, and Jeffrey Combs, who has been in everything
The
from Star Trek.
Reanimator and
Oh, great actor!
The Frighteners.
Film called so good. A film called Faust: Love of the Damned, which is not a
Nice.
good film. I don't recommend watching it.
Great title though.
There's great title. It has a devil demon sort of thing that looks like more like the Noid, the Domino's old mascot.
Yeah.
And it's one sequence where the villain, played by Divoff, sort of grabs the supporting character's breast and makes them expand to ludicrous size and sort of mocks her a bit. And then it's like such a small scene, it kind of just confuses me in that. But the difference between that and what I've seen of what MCT's been able to pull off with, and this is not an insult, with, from what I understand, not a feature film budget. It's like, what excuse did they have? I know that was a lot longer ago, but maybe you should have just tried to make it look good.
The budget is the budget. For some reason, there's almost a mind control tie-in, so I'll justify the anecdote with that. There, back in the days when there were such a thing as video stores, and video stores had back rooms where you could watch porn on VHS tape. When I was a younger man than I am now, and this oasis became available to me, I started purveying what the local smut section at my video store had, and there was a movie. I think it was called. It was something really simple. It was like Legends Part 3 or something like that. And bear in mind, we're talking like 90s porn here.
Yeah.
But anyway, the whole plot of the affair is that this porn company is trying to get this production off the ground, but the actress that they had sort of lined up to do it has bowed out, and now they're scrambling to find a replacement, something like that.
Yeah.
And so Ashlyn Gear plays the actress who's kind of waiting in the wings, the de facto replacement. And they go through this series of exercises to get her trained up for the part, which you can imagine where that goes. But at one point, they say, well, we could really stand to have the breasts a little bit bigger. And of course, Ashlyn Gear, she had enhanced breasts, and she goes around wearing this very frumpy sweater. So at the point where they've got her completely ready to go, they're like, oh crap, we forgot about the breasts though. I kid you not, they pull out a bicycle pump. And she just sort of turns her back to camera, and they they plug the bicycle pump up to her nipples and whoosh, 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 and then switch to the other breast, and then she turns around, ta-da! And it's such an absurd idea.
Oh, no,
but even at the time, I remember thinking, I'm like, somebody that worked on this film has a breast expansion fetish. That is why this is in this movie, because otherwise there'd just be no reason to go there. And just to bring it full circle, there is actually sort of a brief sort of mind control scene in it. At one point, they're entertaining the idea of hiring this sort of infamous actress who I believe is played by Raven. I think the performer's actual name was. I can't remember what the character's name is, but anyway, they bring her in, and everybody's sort of terrified of her because she's just like she's the Lotus Eater or whatever. And there's this scene between her and Sandra Scream where they're in a screening room, and Raven comes in, and she's all slinky and seductive, and she's got this great black dress on, and she kind of plants herself in front of Sandra Scream and sort of just designates that this is my meal, everybody back off. And so basically everyone abandons Sandra Scream to Raven in this little screening room. And there's this brief moment where she begins to fondle her breasts. She's seducing her. And Sandra Scream's like, okay, hold on a second. Whoa, I'm just the secretary around here. I didn't sign up for this. And she tells her in this very commanding tone, look at my eyes. And Sandra Scream looks up and she's like, what? And she kind of gets entranced, and Raven begins explaining like all the ways that she can't resist her, and then eventually the clothes come off and she shows Sandra Scream her tattoo, as the saying goes. So anyway, that was the justification for that thoroughly off-topic and wholly too long anecdote. Legends 3, find it if you can. You can't find it, never mind. Okay, and to spare you from any more of my rambling, let's go to question 10. What are you most proud of in the various ways your films have evolved and become more refined since you started? Are there any specific ideas that you have wanted to explore in your films but haven't been able to so far?
And for our final response, Daphne gives us, we think our movies look great, and I'm very proud of that. I want our movies to look like movies. We'd like to do more with larger casts, longer and more complex plots. We'd also, like I mentioned above, like to do more with visual effects. We have some interesting, although still secret, plans in that regard.
I love secret plans. That's my favorite kind of plans.
Like that makes, like, given that we're doing a podcast, there's no way in heck we'd be like, so could you tell us? We're totally not going to tell anyone.
Because we will totally tell.
Yeah, at the very least, we'd have to, we'd both have to know, and that's still 2 people. But their movies already do look really good. Like, there is really good camera work there. I've never been, like, squinting or anything. Everything's always been in really good focus. All the stuff that I'm not good enough of I'm not enough of a movie maker to be able to compliment things without going, the pretty pictures are pretty. So I don't want to sound condescending.
Yeah.
That's not helpful. But that's larger cast, complex plots. That could be really interesting.
We'll
a little part of me's going like, do that for the FF side. But that's just me.
Right.
I respect where the industry is.
I think just as a fan of their work, somebody who's bought their films and has watched every trailer they have on their website several times.
Yeah.
One of the things that I think really sticks out to me is they're getting a lot more sophisticated in their use of lighting, and I think part of that probably owes to the fact that they have access to much better cameras now. That's one thing. If you're interested in filmmaking, in doing video production and things like that these days, boy, you could not be doing it at a better time. The quality of equipment, the quality of images that you can capture at very, very affordable levels of budget is really astonishing. And I think that you can see that evolution kind of happening over the course of their movies, where the quality of video has evolved to from where they started to where we are right now. I think that we mentioned this trailer. I think we mentioned this film in the last episode. We were talking about Daphne, and it's the most recent film at Mind Control Theater. It's called Lost Weekend. You watch the trailer for that, and you can see like they're setting up some really nicely lit shots, and they're using shadow to good effect. That's one of the things it's one of those fundamental things that if you ever studied filmmaking or cinematography, which I have, you watch a lot of these movies and they really do great. They really do fine, except for the fact that they're lit like sitcoms. And this is a complaint I have with porn in general. And I understand. I get that the whole thing that makes it pornography is that you see the naughty bits, and you want that well lit so that the people who want to see can really see. But when you're trying to convey a story, when you're trying to convey a certain sort of mood that is dramatic or tense or suspenseful, as often Daphne and Henry's movies are trying to do, contrast, light and shadow. You introduce shadows into a scene, and it instantly creates drama. It instantly creates a tension that very brightly lit scenes don't have. There's a reason. Like if you pay attention to romantic comedies or comedies in general, you're not going to find a lot of shadows in those movies unless they're going for a very specific sort of effect, or they're parodying something like that. Sitcoms are the same way. Don't really use shadows. They're very brightly lit because those things, they evoke a lighthearted sort of sensibility that lends itself well to comedy. And porn traditionally goes down that route, and I think it's tremendously savvy to use that word again, of Daphne and Henry. You can see the way they use sound design, the way they use lighting. They're filmmakers.
Yeah.
And I have such deep, deep respect for the amount of thought that goes into their movies, the craft that they show, the writing. I think that there's some of the very, very best as far as like these scripted mind control fetish films go. Just terrific. Absolutely terrific.
And not only that, but as cameras have gotten better, because as someone who watches a lot of really bad movies on the regular,
Yes.
you see a lot of day for night because it's with bad cameras, or even just old cameras to be generous, because the technology of being able to film in pitch black or even close to it is still pretty new if you look at the whole history of film.
Oh yeah.
It's
for video cameras, especially cameras that are really that can actually perform in low light. That's a fairly recent development.
Yeah, and it's a big deal. I mean, I'll give it a hard time when it's like, those shadows sure are pretty big from the moon today. But I mean, they worked with what they had. That blue filter, if they could keep it constant, I'm usually willing to just giggle. And the suspension of disbelief isn't broken.
Yeah. Wait to shoot on an overcast day. That's the trick, people. Shoot on an overcast day.
Shoot in Oregon. But I couldn't resist. But the more you're able to get nice dark shots, I don't know about you, but personally, the slightly lit, like along the right curves, because when you have a little bit of light angled just so, you're just illuminating curves, whether it's the external or whatever, because people are kind of curvy everywhere, even if you just think of it as the hourglass, you're going to move your hands in the air.
Right.
Is so much hotter than just someone standing in front of just in a well lit room.
I agree.
It's just like I'm looking at one of the pictures for Lost Weekend right now with and just the framing of being backlit or of being directly beside each other. Their skin looks so much hotter with that dark, with the contrast there. It's not just a matter of it's adding tension, but oh my gosh, it looks like it's adding tension. But it gives that skin.
It's adding tension in me.
Exactly. But just skin looks, it can look perfectly, I want to touch that cheek when you're in, any lighting. But that's sort of the taboo aspect that it adds in there, and you're only seeing well lit certain parts. It just, it works, and it makes me happy to know that we've got people that are part of our community that are making this stuff, and just that are professionally making this stuff, that care about that, because it doesn't matter who you are. If you're not able to do it, then or you don't care, it doesn't really matter what you're trying to make.
Yep, I agree. Let's go ahead and thank Daphne for and also Henry helped with some of these answers as well. So thank you to Daphne and Henry for
thank you.
Thank you deeply for taking the time to answer these questions. Really, really fun and insightful to see your responses. I am so envious of them. I would love to be doing what they're doing and doing it as well as they're doing. It's just great. I love mind control theater. I love mind control comics. If you have not had the opportunity to check either of these terrific websites out, you really owe it to yourself to rectify that situation. Go to Mind Control Theater, TheAtre.com. Go to mindcontrolcomics.com and check out some of the amazing work that has been posted there. And of course, read up on Daphne's stories at the Mind Control Story Archive, mcstories.com/authors/Daphne.html. Don't worry about trying to type it from my dictation. Head to the show notes for this episode, which you can find at podcast.callidus-mc.com, where you can find these links as well as everything else that we've talked about in the show. You'll find links to all of that at podcast.callidus-mc.com. I think we'll have to call this another episode, MK.
Yeah, no. Only thing I add on to that is that as mentioned, they don't put out stuff the most often, and that's because of the effort they put into it, I'm sure. Because if they wanted volume, they're good enough at what they've been doing it long enough, they could do it. But something would suffer somewhere. It's either, it's the three things. It's good, fast, and cheap.
Exactly.
And you only can get 2 of those 3 things. And if we got to get the the good and the affordable is really honestly what that cheap really means, then let's go with those 2 because I can be patient. Over also on our notes will be a link to Lost Weekend, their latest video, but they've also done, Daphne put out that story the other week.
Yeah,
on
the one we talked
archive.
about, Indiscretion.
And that's also now has an audiobook made from it. And I've had sort of a love-hate relationship with audiobooks, but
Yes.
that is enticing because there's certain books, let's face it, you don't really want to be scrolling. So that's a great way to be able to get a little bit closer to some great prose without having to, I don't know, use your elbow to scroll down. And that makes your life easier and helps support a great creator. And that helps everyone.
That's right. This calls to mind that patent that I keep meaning to file for the foot-operated web browser scroll wheel.
Oh my gosh. I mean, technically, and my brain's just nerding out. I see all kinds of ways you could technically do that with stuff we've already got, but we don't just have a lot of USB like foot pedals. So, hey, Daphne, brand one of those.
Yes.
MCT foot wheel. And I mean, you're hosting the archive. It could be, a Simon Bar Sinister foot wheel. We could totally do this.
Oh, no, you totally can. I've got at least 3 guitar pedals that we could probably do this with right now. Thank you once again to Daphne and Henry for joining us for our very first, the inaugural session of 10 questions for. Thank you both. Also, one thing I will mention in relation to Mind Control Theater, they have sales quite often.
Oh, yeah.
And if you buy a film from them and get on their mailing list, they will email you and tell you, hey, guess what? We're having a sale right now. You can go and get this film for so much off or so much of a percentage off or whatever. So it pays, literally, to get on their email list. Check them out. Mind Control Theater, TRE. Mind Control Theater.
A lot of good customer loyalty there. It's that getting people from the community. That's, if there's any other reason to support, to check this stuff out, it's definitely going to be because these are people that both want to, make a living at this and that want to make this stuff for us. So let's all, try and work together on that.
Yes, I agree. Let's work together to make high quality live action mind control smut.
Yes.
This is a cause we can unite around. But we're going to have to do that next time because it's time to end right now. So thank you all once again for joining us here on the Black Room Podcast. We are delighted to be with you again. And also, we would like, as MK is about to tell you, we'd like for you to contact us. Wouldn't we?
Yeah, because, hey, this communication only goes one way. You can hear us, but we can't hear you. And whenever we're looking at what we want to spotlight, our reach only goes so far, but we want to be able to broadcast more of what's going on. So if you are making anything, if you know of anyone that's making anything, anyone that might be fun to talk to, if you're doing something and want to talk to us about it, we'd love to hear from you, because one of our, the primary goal here is getting more good mind control smut, more good erotic hypnosis, all this good stuff out to as many people as possible. And if you're doing something or you know someone that is, and you can move all that in our direction, then we can get that going.
Hear, hear. So that's it for us this time. Thank you for joining us once more on the Black Room Podcast. We do appreciate it. We can't wait to see you next episode, where we will, of course, be talking all things erotic mind control. For Madam Peace-a-Lot, I am Callidus. Thank you again. See you next time. Farewell.